first wet footprint was in the middle of Erin's hallway, not near the front door, not near the bathroom, not near any place where water should have been. It was just there, pressed dark into the wooden floor, shaped like a barefoot with 5 clear toes pointing toward her bedroom. Erin stood in the hallway at 6:18 in the morning, still holding her coffee mug, staring at it like her brain was refusing to understand what it meant. She lived alone. The front door was locked. The back door was locked. Every window was shut because it had rained all night and the air outside was cold enough to fog the glass. At first she told herself it was her. Maybe she had stepped in water. Maybe she had spilled something and forgotten. But she was wearing socks. Dry socks. And the print was too large. A man's foot. Maybe size 11. Maybe bigger. Erin backed away slowly and checked the locks again. Front door. Deadbolt lock. Chain attach. Back door. Lock. Sliding glass door. Lock. Laundry room window. Lock. Bathroom window. Painted shut. Nothing looked broken. Nothing looked forced. Nothing looked disturbed. That somehow made it worse. She took a picture of the footprint and sent it to her brother Mark. He called immediately. "Are you home right now?" "Yes." "Get out." Erin almost laughed because it sounded too extreme. "It's probably just water from the dog bowl or something." "You don't have a dog." That sentence made the house feel colder. Mark stayed on the phone while Erin checked each room. Living room. Kitchen. Bathroom. Guest room. Closet. Under the bed. Behind the shower curtain. Nothing. No one. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator humming and the rain dripping from the gutters outside. Then Erin reached the bedroom. The door was half open. She always slept with it closed. Besides, everything looked normal. Bed unmade. Lamp on. Laundry basket in the corner. Phone charger hanging from the wall. But on the floor beside the closet was another wet footprint. This one pointed away from the closet. Erin stopped breathing. The closet door was shut. She had left it open. She was sure of it. Mark said through the phone to Erin. "What happened?" She whispered, "There's another one." He told her to leave now. This time she listened. She grabbed her keys from the kitchen, left the house without locking it, and waited in her car until Mark arrived 20 minutes later. He brought a baseball bat. Together they went back inside. The footprints were still there, but already drying around the edges. Mark checked the closet first. Nothing inside except clothes, a suitcase, and 2 cardboard boxes of old books. Then he noticed the carpet at the back of the closet. It had been pulled up in one corner. Just a little. Not enough to notice unless you were looking for it. He moved the boxes, lifted the carpet, and froze. Underneath was a square cut into the floor. A small hatch. Painted the same color as the old wood. Erin had lived in that house for 8 months and had never known it was there. Mark grabbed the metal ring and pulled. The hatch lifted with a soft, sticky sound. A cold draft came out of the dark. Below it was a narrow crawl space. Not under the whole house. Just under that section. Maybe 3 feet deep. Enough room for a person to lie down. Erin covered her mouth. There was a towel down there. A dark hoodie. An empty water bottle. And a pair of muddy socks. Police arrived less than 15 minutes later. They searched the crawl space and found more than Erin wanted to know. Food wrappers. A flashlight. A plastic bag full of batteries. A small knife. A folded blanket. And a notebook wrapped in a Ziploc bag. One officer opened it to read the first page and looked at Erin in a way she never forgot. He asked, "Do you live alone?" She nodded. He closed the notebook and told her to wait outside. Of course, she asked what was inside. The officer did not answer. Mark did. He had seen enough over the officer's shoulder. Times. Her times. Leaves for work 7:10. Home usually 5:45. Calls brother on Wednesdays. Bedroom light out between 11 and 12. Sleeps on right side. Closet opens quietly if lifted first. Erin sat down on the curb because her legs stopped working. The police kept searching. The crawl space connected to an old access tunnel beneath the bedroom wall. The original owner had built the house with a small service space for plumbing, then covered the access panel decades earlier. But somebody had found it, or had been shown it. There was a second opening behind the loose siding on the outside of the house, hidden by bushes near the bedroom window. That was how he came in. That was how he left. That was why no doors were unlocked. Why no windows were broken. Why the alarms never went off. He never came through a door. The officer said the wet footprints probably happened because the man had entered during the storm, crawled under the bedrooms and came up through the closet while Erin slept. He had walked out into the hallway, barefoot, wet from the rain, and then gone back down before she woke up. Erin stayed with Mark that night. She told herself she would never sleep in that house again, but the next day she had to go back for clothes, documents, and her work laptop. Mark went with her. So did two officers. The house looked normal in daylight. That was the worst part. The flowers by the porch were still bright. Her coffee mug was still in the sink. The blanket on the couch was still folded over the arm. It looked safe. It looked like a home. The officers checked inside first. Clear. Then Mark helped her pack. She moved fast, throwing clothes into a duffel bag without folding them. She grabbed her passport, social security card, laptop chargers, and the jewelry box her mother gave her. She avoided the bedroom closet. She did not want to look at the hatch again. One officer stood near the hallway watching it. The other checked outside near the bushes. Erin was in the bathroom collecting toiletries when she heard Mark say, "Hey." His voice was low. Careful. Not scared yet, but close. Erin walked into the hallway. Mark was staring at the floor. There was a new wet footprint. Fresh. Dark. Not from yesterday. Not dry. Fresh. It was outside the guest room door, pointing toward the hallway. Everyone stopped moving. The officer near the closet drew his weapon. "Stay behind me," he said. The guest room door was open. The room was empty. The bed was made. The curtains were closed. The second officer came back inside through the front door and said no one was outside. Then they heard it. A slow drip. Water hitting wood. Drip. 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 It was coming from the guest room closet. Erin whispered, "There's no crawl space in there." The officer opened the closet. Nothing. Just winter coats and storage bins. Then another drop of water fell from above. Everyone looked up. There was the square attic panel in the ceiling of the closet. Erin had never noticed it because the closet was narrow and the panel was painted over to match the ceiling. The officer pulled a chair over and pushed against it. The panel lifted easily. Too easily. It had not been sealed. The smell came down first. Damp clothes. Cigarettes. Human sweat. Then a hand appeared at the edge of the opening. The officer shouted. The hand vanished. Something moved above them. Fast. Across the attic. Boots hit beams. Dust fell from the closet ceiling. The second officer ran outside to watch the roof line while the first climbed into the attic. Mark pulled Erin into the living room. For several seconds, all they heard were muffled commands above the ceiling. Then something crashed. The officer shouted, "Stop!" A ceiling vent in the hallway burst open. A man dropped halfway through it, then hit the floor hard and scrambled up on all fours. He was soaked, barefoot, dirty. His hair was plastered to his face. For one impossible second, Erin recognized him. Not because she knew him well, because she had seen him before. At the grocery store, at the gas station, once standing behind her in line at the pharmacy. He had even held the door open for her 2 weeks earlier and smiled when she thanked him. Now he was in her hallway, breathing hard, holding one of her kitchen knives. Mark stepped in front of Erin. The man looked at him like he was annoyed. Not panic. Not scared. Annoyed. Then he ran toward the back of the house. The officer tackled him near the laundry room. The knife slid across the floor and stopped against Erin's shoe. She screamed and kicked it away. They arrested him face down on the kitchen tile while he kept saying the same thing over and over. "She was safer with me here." Later, detectives told Erin the attic and crawl space were connected through a vertical surface gap inside the walls. The man had been using both. The crawl space let him enter. The attic let him move around. The closet hatch let him come up near her bedroom. The attic panel let him hide above the guest room when the crawl space was searched. He had known the house better than she did. Then they found the cameras. One behind a loose vent in the hallway. One inside the smoke detector outside her bedroom. One in the bedroom closet facing the bed. The batteries were changed regularly. The memory cards were labeled by date. Police said he had probably been inside the house many times while Erin was at work. But Erin kept thinking about the wet footprints, because that meant he had not only come in when she was gone, he had come in while she was asleep. Barefoot, quiet, close enough to stand beside her bed. Detectives searched his apartment and found printed photos of Erin's house, her car, her office parking lot, and her walking into stores. They found receipts from places she shopped. They found one of her missing hoodies, a hairbrush from her bathroom, and the spare key that had vanished from her kitchen drawer months earlier. But the key had not been used. He had never needed it. When they asked him why he kept it, he said, "For when she invited me in." Erin moved out before the week ended. She left most of the furniture. She broke the lease. She changed her phone number. She moved in with Mark until she could find an apartment on the 3rd floor of a building with cameras, neighbors, and no attic. But the house did not stop appearing in her life. A month later, the landlord called and said workers had found something behind the bedroom wall during repairs. A second notebook. This one was older. On the first page, the man had written a sentence that made Erin feel like she was back in that hallway staring at the wet print on the floor. She notices water. After that, the notes got worse. She checks locks first. She calls brother when scared. She does not look up. She never checks the guest room. The last page had only one line. Next time, shoes. Erin never went back to the house. She did not want anything from it. Not the clothes. Not the dishes. Not the photos still on the bedroom wall. Nothing. Now every night before bed she checks the floor. Not the doors first. Not the windows. The floor. She looks for marks. Water. Mud. Dust moved in the wrong direction. Then she checks the closets. Then the ceiling. Because she learned something most people never think about until it is too late. A locked door only matters if the person trying to get in is outside. And if you ever wake up and find a wet footprint in your hallway, would you check the locks? Or check where it came from?